are in listen-only mode.
All right. Let's see if we got past our little technical challenges. If I did it right this time, you should see a nice big diversified trading live demo slide with Adam Halpern and Stephanie T. So can I get a Y if you can hear me? There we go. All right. And just to verify, can I get a Y if you can also see the slide I'm talking about? Yes, Joseph's like, let's go. Fantastic. Okay, so that's great advice. Let's go. So probably the biggest news right off the bat is you'll notice that the presentation there says Adam Halpern, yours truly, and Stephanie T. For those of you that have not dealt with Stephanie in the past, she has been with us a long time. She took a hiatus, a little break to do some stuff in her personal life, and she is back in all her glory. So she's going to help me present today, and I'll give you a little background on her in a little bit. Anyone in the room ever worked with Stephanie before? Yes? No? Hines, yep. Great. Stephanie's claim to fame, just so you all know, was she was literally my first customer call. So we're talking like, oh, gosh, 5 years ago now. I'm driving home from my day job, and my cell phone rings, and this person says, you know, is this Indicator Warehouse? And I'm like, well, I guess so, right? Because I just started, and it was her and looking for an indicator, and we've been friends ever since, and eventually we became colleagues. So she's been with me a long time, really an amazing person. That does not mean by any chance or whatever that Ray is gone. Stephanie's just an addition to the team. We are working on a series of demonstrations of which Ray's going to be taking over more in the evenings and on the weekends, because one of the things, some of the feedback I've gotten is that Wednesday is not always the best time to have a demonstration. Some people want things on the weekend and the evenings, and so, you know us, we try and adhere and help everyone we can, and so that's where Ray's going to be taking over. Okay, so let's dive in. Actually, before I do, real quick, anybody have any questions they want to put in the question box? Anything you want us to cover specifically today? Otherwise, you know, we'll dive into the general presentation. Okay, so those of you that are here for the first time, probably not your first, I'm guessing, seminar, presentation, whatever you want to call it. So you've seen this disclaimer before. Really the most important thing to me is that nobody's trading with their child's college education. So other than that, you can read the rest, but you know, I don't I don't want to be responsible for that. So we will, someone just asked about purchasing just one bird, and the answer is yes. Paul will cover that at the end. So what are we going to do today? Well, today's presentation, we're going to talk about what makes diversification such a unique, let's call it a unique choice in the day trading market. How using diversification enables you to win more and lose less. And I think that if I had to sum up what we're all trying to do in day trading, it's exactly that. You win more, lose less, you're a successful trader. Obviously easier said than done. We'll go specifically into the diversified trading system itself, what makes it unique, how you use it to get an edge in the market. Stephanie's on board to help with some of the advanced trading strategies. She's going to show her live charts. And of course, we're always open for any questions and answers session at the end and during. So if you've got a question on something I'm addressing or Stephanie's addressing, put it in the question box. We will try and hit them all in a timely manner. If for some reason we miss a question, please don't be offended. You're welcome to contact us. We'll put our telephone number in there. We'll put our email addresses. We're very transparent. So there you have it. Okay. So as I said, our claim to fame, we're going on our 5th year, which in the world of internet businesses pretty much makes us an old-timer. And we are a Tier 1 NinjaTrader partner. I remember when there was just a few people or a few entities that were in that partner section of NinjaTrader, and now I think there's hundreds. But we were there in the beginning, and we plan on keeping our pole position. Pardon me, I have to drink of water there. I do invite you to go and look at that link below, and you can see the different testimonials, reviews of our company, of our products. There is absolutely no greater compliment than getting an unsolicited compliment from your customer. I mean, that's how I know we're doing things right, and there's some great feedback there. All right, so here's our team. Some of them, I should say. I had to make room for Stephanie, so when Ray's presenting, he'll get his little honorary spot, but Stephanie gets the one in the corner today. For those of you that aren't aware of us, what Indicator Warehouse is, where we come from, where we're going, we started off as basically a Home Depot for day trading tools. And, I guess you would call it my unique vision, was to represent the different professional NinjaScript programmers that were out there. There were some really, really sharp folks out there that write some amazing code, but because they're coders and don't have any skills in basically sharing what they do with the rest of the world, nobody knows about them or nobody knew about them. And so I reached out to them and said, listen, I enjoy sales and marketing and presentations and all that fun stuff, but I'm not a coder. And so how about you let me put all your stuff under one roof, and Indicator Warehouse was born. And we've grown from there, right? We grew from a site that had hundreds of indicators for like $97 or less to now really having a premier day trading solution in the marketplace. And over time, what I learned was that people didn't just want tools, they wanted the teachers to come with it. And so we added Eric Semf and Omar El Tuki and Michael Filiguera to the team. Each of them specialize in a particular area of trading. Eric is a CTA and a futures trader extraordinaire. Omar does Forex, and Michael does stocks and equities and some options even. So you'll see that one of the competitive advantages of the day trading system, or solution as you will, is that it'll work in any market, any time. That has always been my vision, and I'm very proud to say we fulfill on that. Stephanie's on board with Ray. They both help me with pre-sales consulting, coaching, really to address any questions you may have around the system. It is a modular system, so to answer who asked me at the beginning, I can't remember now, you can purchase the core platform, if you will, with just one of the systems, or if you want to take full advantage of the true diversification, you can get all three, and we'll talk about that later in the presentation. Recent addition to the team, Richard. Again, one of those things that we always try and do here at the Indicator Warehouse is be a warehouse for all things trading, right? So I've worked very hard to find quality partners, not just for education, but we have a good partner for hardware. We even have a CTA that specializes in day traders, and now we have a trading psychologist on staff. And the idea is just to have a complete solution. It's not just about software. It takes much more than that, and I think Richard would argue that probably the most important indicator out there is really the one between your ears. So as I said, we still represent independent programmers. The day trading system that we're going to talk about today isn't the product of one self-proclaimed guru who says, give me your money and you can trade just like me, which we all know is a joke. It's the product of a collaborative effort between some of the world's top NinjaScript programmers, day traders, CTAs, software designers, and me. So it's really come together in a beautiful way, and it's neat to see all this play out in the market. Okay, So the diversified trading system. As I said before, it can trade futures, forex, stocks, or any combination thereof. So that was very important to me. My vision, as I said before, was any market, anytime, and that's been the driving force behind DTS and continues to guide us. So what is the diversified trading system? Well, it's a collection of indicators that result in a core component, which we're going to talk about first. I call it a platform. Sometimes you'll hear it called DTS Core. All of these things run on top of NinjaTrader. So truly, NinjaTrader is the platform. And then what we provide are third-party add-ons, plugins, if you will, that allow NinjaTrader to go to the next level. So our core element for any diversified trading system that you're interested in is the mean Renko bars and the logic counter. And we'll go into more detail what those are. Those are kind of the heart and soul, if you will, of the system. And then the part that makes DTS truly unique, the diversification piece, is that we realized after, going on 5 years now, that a one-system-fits-all solution is just hogwash, quite frankly. It doesn't exist. It's impossible. The market is too varied. The market is too diverse to think that there's one system that's going to allow you to trade every aspect of the market. And so we're going to go into that in more detail. Our solution to that, and Rich will back this up actually from a psychological perspective, is that the market has really three primary conditions at any point in time. Right? So it has a trending state, it has a range-bound state, and then it has a high volatility state, which is usually a period in between the range-bound and the trend, where the market really is trying to break out of its range, doesn't really know where it is. Tremendous volatility, great opportunity for grabbing scalps. So what we did was we created a unique system that works with our core to trade any one or all of these market conditions. Does that make sense? Do I have you all thoroughly confused, or are we good? Give me a yes, please, if y'all are with me so far. Because this is the key element, right? Most people, most vendors, they have one, trading solution, and they tell you it's going to do everything under every condition, and that's just ridiculous. Now, the secret sauce, just to sound like a sales guy, right? The secret sauce that we bring to the table, besides the diversification, how do we tie it all together? Because it can sound a little complicated, is this thing called Trade Manager. This is an amazing piece of software. It was designed by the same person who did the mean Renko bars and the logic counter. He happens to be a missile guidance system programmer, so very tight code, very clean. But the Trade Manager is what allows you to trade multiple systems at the same time without being overwhelmed. It actually makes it quite easy to do. And so we'll go into that in more detail. But this overall, starting on the base, mean Renko, logic counter, then the condition alert systems above it, and then above that Trade Manager, that makes up the complete diversified trading system. Okay, so let's start with the mean Renko bars. What makes the mean Renko bars so unique? In order to appreciate the mean Renko bars, you have to take 2 steps back, right? When you first fire up Ninja, what is it you typically see? Typically, you'll see a minute bar, right? A bar based on X number of minutes. I think actually Ninja defaults to like 1 minute, which is insane. But a lot of people out there you'll hear are trading 5-minute bars. Okay, so hopefully you can see my chart. Can you guys see my arrow moving on my chart? I never know if this shows it or not. Someone give me a yes. Well, thank you. Okay, so what's the advantage of a minute chart, a time-based chart? Well, the advantage of a time-based chart are these wicks, right? And the way it was described to me when I was first learning day trading is think of the wicks as the rocket exhaust, right? I mean, this is a very powerful move right here. It's pushing down, right? This is pushing up, kind of stuck in the middle. So these wicks are important, right? They're showing you what dynamically is happening in the marketplace. The problem with time-based charts is they're often quite confusing, right? Because they're back and forth, a lot of noise built into the time-based bars. So along comes these Renko bars. That's over here. And these are standard Renko bars right out of Ninja. So hopefully you can see right off the bat that what a Renko bar does is smooth out some of the noise in the market. I'm not going to go into explicit detail what a Renko is. You can Google it. But the bottom line is that you define a Renko bar by a brick size. In other words, if price stays within a certain range, it's not going to print another bar until it comes out of that range. And that's how you end up with these really, really nice, smooth, easy to read bars. So can anyone tell me what the problem may be with these bars? Range bars, Renko bars, anything that looks like this. That was your hint. Somebody type in there the challenge that you have when you use standard Renkos. Come on, there's somebody out there who knows about Renko bars. Where's my Renko genius? You win, Robert. Well done. A lollipop for you. No wicks. No wicks. So what does that mean by no wicks? It means that you lose this market intelligence, right? You don't get to see any of this movement, which gives you insight into what's going on in the marketplace. So our solution to that is to take the standard mean Renko bars, and we integrated our own algorithm into the bars in conjunction with the wicks. So now you have these beautiful, right? It's even smoother than here, right? Look how smooth that is. You have these beautiful moves that have taken the noise out of the market, yet you still have the intelligence of the wicks built into the bars. Very, very important. Okay? So that's your mean Renko bars. Any question on those? Great. Okay. So we covered one piece of the core system, right? The mean Renko bars. Now we're going to talk about this nifty little feature called logic counter. And the truth is that Ray and Stephanie were the two people that were behind the development of this. So I asked Stephanie if she would cover this piece. Steph, are you there?
I am. How's my audio?
Fantastic.
Okay. And so I'm going to ask for control here.
Okay.
And Adam, just in case I need to go back, if I go too fast forward, is there a way to do that?
I think you're good. If
okay.
you need to, I'll let you know.
Okay, great. Okay, hi everyone. Thank you for having me here today. I'm excited to be back with Indicator Warehouse. And I'll give you my take on Logic Counter. It's an awesome, awesome tool. The beauty of the Renko bars, our mean Renko bars, is pure, smooth price action. But the challenge with even our Renko bars and any other Renko bar that NinjaTrader has standard is that you never really know very quickly where the bar will actually close. So the Logic Counter, as you can you see my mouse moving, Adam?
Actually, you just changed slides.
Yeah, I did. Darn, sorry.
It's all right.
Do I go back?
You can do, yeah, just use your
there
keyboard.
We go. Okay. So the beauty of the Logic Counter is as soon as the bar starts to form, you will be able to know exactly where the bar will close, if it's closing on its high or if it's closing on its low. These are the exact numbers. How that's going to work wonderfully with DTS is DTS, and we'll go into this in more detail on a few slides to come, is we're going to give you warning signals that an entry is coming. So the dots on all three of our signal-generated systems will be the warning, that's your get ready. The triangle is your get set, that is to let you know this is your entry bar, and then your entry would be one tick above where the bar will close. So in this case, we know well in advance when this bar actually starts, just begins to form, where our entry is going to be. So the entry on this particular signal, get ready, get set, and enter, would be 9491, one tick higher than the number that prints with your logic counter. So that's the intelligence behind the logic counter.
Awesome. Will you advance slide?
Okay. So on our ready, set, go theory is that we put together not only systems that give you an entry signal, but that give you a great warning system. It just gives you more time to prepare, and so that you're not chasing the market. So you'll get a ready, red dot for shorts, green dot for long. That's always going to be your warning, your ready signal on any one of the systems. Your set will be either a red triangle for a short or a green triangle for a long. And then your go is the hash mark where you place your entry, or using the logic counter, one tick above is where the hash mark will print. Again, green will be your long entry and red will be your short entry.
Steph, can I take this real quick and then you can show it in a second?
Sorry.
No, it's all right. You can go to the next slide. So this came, folks, this came from direct feedback from our customer base. How many people have used a system where it basically just prints an arrow? And it's, you know, it's either a long or a short. Anyone used a system like that? Yes? No? So what's the problem with that? The problem with that is you start to become this just bundle of nerves, right? You're just sitting there waiting for that signal, and then boom, the signal comes and you're like, oh my God, I got to get it immediately. And all of us know that there's no such thing as a perfect signal, right? And so now the signal's popped up on your chart. You're like wondering, should I really take it or not? I'm going to use all my confirmation. And, you know, that's just standard for any day trading system. The beauty of this is that it gives you that warning, right? So you, okay, looks like there's a trade building up, right? And this has to do with the algorithm that's going on in the background. Looks like there's a trade setting up, okay? Looks like the signal is forming the way it was designed to do. I'm getting ready for my position. Okay, now I know in advance where I'm going to get in. It's it's not very. Day trading will never be stress-free, but it's a much more intelligent way of trading, in my opinion. And so, actually, Steph, will you build the slides so you can show how it works? You can.
Sure. Okay. So here's an example of getting ready. This is our ready signal for a long. We'll get the dot forming as this bar is forming, a green bar closing above our swing line. This is our Falcon swing trader. The next bar that starts to form would be your set. So again, the get ready was the green dot. Get set is the green triangle. Now we know this is our entry bar. So as it's forming, our logic counter is going to give us an exact price where it will end. And our go is the hash mark, which is exactly where our price should have been. If you're ready to take this trade, you actually could have placed this order as soon as that bar started to form, because you know exactly where, using the logic counter, where it will end. Okay. Any questions on the ready, set, go aspect of DTS? Giving you plenty of time to get ready for your position.
Okay, we're good.
You're good? Okay, good. Okay, I'm taking the next slide as well, right?
Yep, sure.
Okay. Okay, so let's go over the 3 different DTS systems. This is the DTS Eagle Trend Trader. It is created for trending markets. It is designed to find $200 plus moves. And it comes with the main platform, as Adam went over, the mean Renko bars and logic counter. The soft edge, trend line, and hard edge, and we'll show you that in just a minute, along with the trend filter and the ready, set, go signals.
So before we dive into this, I want to ask you folks real quick, let's see how savvy our audience is. What percentage of the time does the market actually get into a nice trend? Twenty, 23, less than 20, 1/3, 35. That's probably right, Mark. 30. The statistic I've heard is 20, but let's go with what the room says. So an average, actually, if I'm averaging what everyone's answers are, it's about 25%. Okay, now here's the next question. What percentage of the time do system vendors show you their systems on a trending market? In other words, the ideal perfect situation. What percentage of the time? 100, 80. Actually, if you're like one of the guys I know out there, it's 82%. It's never exactly a number. Have you noticed that? It's always like 91. Okay. I want you all to keep that in mind because what's gone into the diversified trading system is based on reality, right? It's not a bunch of fluff. And so, yes, we have an alert generator for trending markets. And if you just want to trade, let's say 20, 25% of the time, then really all you need is the Eagle Trend Trader, right? And if you don't mind just, waiting for those types of signals, then you're fine, okay? If you want to trade other market conditions, which Stephanie's about to get into, such as range-bound or high volatility, then you're going to need a different signal generator to trade that condition. Each of these signal generators have their own unique algorithms, sets of indicators, if you will, that have been designed specifically to find a certain type of market condition. So keep that in mind. That is a key component of DTS that, quite frankly, I haven't seen anywhere else. Okay, thanks, Steph.
Okay, that's a great explanation. Okay, so that was the Eagle Trend Trader. Sorry, I'm trying to figure out. There we go. Okay, so now we have an example of a trending market. And this is what your Eagle Trend Trader will look like on your screen. The mean Renko bars, the Eagle Trend system. This is the hard edge. I'm sorry, that's a soft edge. I'm not familiar with these slides just yet. The soft edge showing you are in the uptrend when the soft edge is above the hard edge. There's your hard edge of the Eagle band. We have the Eagle filter at the bottom of the chart. This is green for long, red for short.
Go back for a second, Steph.
Sorry?
Go back for a second. Okay. So one of the things that we did for DTS was we wanted to, even though these are designed to trade different market conditions, I kind of stole a page from Microsoft Office. And so the idea was that all of the three systems should basically act the same. So if you learn the interface of one, i.e. the ready, set, go in the primary screen at the top and the filter down below, if you know one, then you know all three. Now, there are some subtle differences between each of the systems. As I said, they're uniquely designed for specific market conditions, but that's the core. If you know the ready, set, go, use your top chart for ready, set, go, use your lower chart for a filter, then you're ready for any or all of DTS. Okay, thanks, Steph.
Awesome. And by the way, each one of the systems also comes with not only visual signals, the ready, set, go, but also audio. And you can customize those to fit your either the instrument you're trading or just the actual trending, scalping, or swing trading market.
Good point.
Okay, the Falcon Swing Trader is created for range-bound markets, designed to take 1 to 200 moves out of the market. It includes, again, the base main platform, which is the mean Renko bars, the logi counter, and then the swing line, swing filter, and again, the ready, set, go signals. So let's take a look at that.
Hang on one second, Steph. All right, here's your quiz again, folks. We've already used up 25% of our trading time. What percentage of the time do you think the market is in a balanced state. In other words, a range-bound state. $75, $75, more than 50, 40, 70, 60. So I'm actually, the statistics I've seen is 70, okay? So 70% of the time, think about that. 70% of the time, the majority of the time, the market is in a range-bound state. Not a sexy trend state, not a volatile state, range-bound state. So now, what have we used up so far? We've done 70 plus 20, so we're 90% covered with these two signals. Okay, go on, Steph.
Okay, great. So we'll take a look at an example of a Falcon swing trader chart. Again, like Adam said, the systems are designed to be very similar, so you are comfortable using each one of them. We've got the swing line that is green for long and magenta for short. We've got the filtered below, red for short, green for long. And then we have our, I'm so sorry, I went a little fast. Again, the ready, set, go signals with the dots, the triangles, and the hash marks for your entries.
Okay.
Okay.
So you all are probably better at math than me. We've used up 90% of our trading time. That leaves us with 10%, right? 10% of the time, the market is in what I call a hyper-volatile state. And that means that it doesn't really know where it is, right? It's usually in a transition point, and that's 10% of the time. Now, here's the question that makes everybody so upset. How many people on the presentation today consider themselves scalpers? Come on, be honest. I need a why if you think you're a scalper. So this is really what we wrestle with, right? We know that a scalping system is going to, quote, work about 10% of the time. The problem is that everyone out there who seems to be selling systems is pushing this scalping idea. And again, it's not that scalping doesn't work. It's just that it only works in the right conditions, which is a highly volatile state where you scalp out little pieces of the market, $50 moves. And so people come into this situation with this false premise that they get to scalp all the time. And it's no wonder that they get their lunch handed to them, because we've identified the fact that really you should be range trading about 70% of the time. You should be trend trading about 20% of the time. And then if you want a fully diversified system, in other words, if you want to be able to trade any market condition, yeah, you need a scalper to round it out. And that's why we created the Hawk Micro Scalper. Okay, Steph.
Okay, great. Again, and Adam kind of went over that. It's designed to take $50 moves out of the market. It comes with, again, the core system, the mean Renko bars, the logic counter, the macro and micro trend line, and the filter along with the ready, set, go signals designed for scalping. Each one of these DTS systems has a specific algorithm built into it for that condition of the market. So here we have an example of the Hawk Scalper. It is the micro line, red for short, green for long. The macro line, again, red for short, gray for flat, and green for long. And then the green bars, again, long signals only. The red bars are short signals only, and the yellow bars, a unique feature in the Hawk to show you sideways consolidation. And then we have the filter at the bottom that we would want to have corresponding with your signal, green for long and red for short.
All right, so before we move forward, we've gone through each one of these systems, and typically what happens is people are like, well, you know, I just want one of them. And that's fine. As I said, if you know that you only want to trade 10% of the time or 20% of the time or 70% of the time, absolutely fine. We have created systems that are specifically designed for each phases of the market. So it's important because this is where diversification comes into play, right? It's not that you're trading any one system at a time. The beauty of DTS is that one system can inform you about another one. So maybe if you just have a scalping system, right? You have no illumination. You have no way of knowing what's going on at the broader level of the market. Well, that's a dangerous way to trade. That's like swinging a razor blade in the dark. Okay, you don't want to do that, right? You need some kind of illumination, and Stephanie will show you like one of her favorite ways of trading is to use the eagle to help define the direction of the market, if you will, the flight path. And then she's much more comfortable trading something like the Falcon or the Hawk because she's got the direction has been set by the eagle. Okay, so I'm going to actually have her at the end bring up charts from today so you can get a sense of what that looks like. But I'll let her, actually, I took over. Sorry, Steph. So you can give them an explanation on like how you set up your charts. Yep.
Okay, but I'm not showing my screen yet, right?
Yep, you got it. It's yours. Oh, not your charts. I'm saying just cover the slide.
Okay, sure, no problem. Okay, so here's an example of the YM. I hope you all can see the symbols clearly. We have the Eagle Trend Trader on the bottom right, the Falcon Swing Trader for the range bound in the middle, and the Hawk Scalper at the top right. Now, there are, again, if you do decide to go with the complete DTS diversified trader system master package and have all three systems, the beauty of that is when they're all three in sync, the signals are wonderful. A lot of times we'll get into a trending market in the wee hours of the morning before the U.S. markets open, and so although the market might be trending, you might need a way into that trend. That's another great reason to have the Eagle Trend Trader up and running, even if you are not a trend trader and you are looking to just take scalps or swing trades out of the market. Knowing where the trend started and where it came from, what time of the day it started is really a great and powerful tool. So, and then we have the NQ on the left, same setup, the scalper at the top, Falcon in the middle, and the Eagle bottom left.
So one of the things I want to remind you all about, you can't really tell from a PowerPoint presentation, but as Stephanie said earlier, we took into account that this can be potentially a little overwhelming, and that's why there's audio signals. So when the eagle has a signal that fires, it's going to say trend, right? Or the Falcon's going to say swing, or the Hawk's going to say scalp. And what a lot of people do, some people just trade one market, right? You can trade one market, but you can trade three conditions of that market at any point in time. Some people trade correlated markets, so you may have the ES, the NQ, and the YM up. What you can do is customize the sound file so that you can say, YM scalp, right, or NQ swing, right? So it gives you some way of zeroing in very quickly for you to analyze the trade before you get into it. Okay.
Okay, I'm going to move to the next slide.
Sure. You can go through that.
Oh, and I'm sorry.
That's all right. No worries.
I didn't realize the slide did this.
Pretty cool, though.
It is cool, and there's the eagle for both.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So let me talk about this real quick. So we've covered the diversified trading system up to the last piece. Does anyone remember what I said the secret sauce was? Someone type in what the secret sauce was. We covered mean Renko bars. We covered logic counters, which is the core. We covered each of the respective signal generators for the market conditions. Exactly. Trade manager. And so trade manager it's just a labor of love. I've had this idea for trade manager really since I started the company, And that's one of the advantages, by the way, of owning your own software company is you can convince programmers to do things for you. So Trade Managers, it's into version 3. It's a very mature product. And it is it allows for a combination of two things. It allows you to automatically manage your trades. And so the value there is that it is the closest thing you can get to having technology take the emotion out of trading. And this came from my experience working with Eric Senf, one of our mentors, one of my original teachers. He used to put on a position, and then he'd be like, all right, Adam, I'm going to go walk the dogs. I'm like, what do you mean you're going to go walk the dogs? You're in the market. You can't get up and leave, your screens. He's like, no, look, I've made my decision, and I've got my stop loss in place, and it'll be what it'll be. And I could never deal with that, right? I just didn't have the personality to deal with that. And so what Trade Manager does is when you get into a position, it will trail your stop for you in the marketplace. The reason that's important is that allows you to use 3 systems at the same time. So let's say the Eagle gives you a trend trade. You put on the position. Trade Manager is going to trail that really as long as the trend plays out. And so I know this is crazy for us day traders to think about holding a position, God forbid, longer than 15 minutes. But imagine being in a trend trade an hour, 4 hours, all day, right? These big trend moves, when they happen, and granted it's only about 20% of the time, but when they do, those are your money makers. And so the beauty of Trade Manager is you can have that position in play and then just forget about it, right? And go and do your scalping or swing trading, whatever that may be. So important note. Automatically manages your trades for you. All right, money management position sizing. I'm sure somebody yawned when I said that. So not the sexiest part of day trading, I will admit it. Probably the most important, right? So I've had the pleasure of talking to people that are institutional traders, successful retail traders, and even poker players. Anyone who's successful in this probability and statistics game will tell you that it's really not about the wins, it's about covering your losses. So remember how we started this whole presentation with win more, lose less? Well, the win more is the part we just covered, right? It's going to manage your position for you, keep you in the position as long as possible. The lose less is the secret, and people don't realize that. Right? If you can cut your losses short, which is easier said than done, and quite frankly, I don't know how you do it without software, that's how you live to trade another day. And unfortunately, it's not sexy, it doesn't demonstrate well or whatever, but it is by far the secret to surviving in day trading. Okay, so it's a little hard to show in PowerPoint presentation, but Stephanie's going to give it her best. The reason we have 2 charts up here is because I want you to see that you can, with Trade Manager, you can have 2 positions going at the same time, and it's quite easy. Let me see, Stephanie, hold on. Let me see if this will build. Okay, you know what, I'm going to take this piece, Steph, and then you can always, step in if I miss something.
Yep, I can, okay. Okay.
So the Trade Manager on the right-hand side, actually the next version that's going to come out is even more simplified than what you see here. If you haven't noticed it yet, we're very much about keeping things as simple as possible. Another rule that I have about day trading is too much information is paralysis. And so it's one of the things that Eric preaches is, can you make a decision, right? Is your system so clear and so simple that you can make a decision? Otherwise, you're just caught up in analysis paralysis. So we originally, when we designed Trade Manager, wanted it to mimic Chart Trader because we knew that it would be a bit of an adjustment for people that were used to Chart Trader. So we literally made almost a clone of Chart Trader. But the truth is, very few people use everything that's in Chart Trader, and it just takes up a lot of space and can be confusing. So the newer version that's about to come out will have just a clear interface, but the concept's the same, and that is that you, let me advance this. What you do is, just like Chart Trader, you define where you're going to get into the market, and then you define where your stop's going to be. And at that point, what it's doing is it's calculating how much risk you have basically from taking that trade. So without going into extensive detail, anyone who's read Van Tharp will know about position sizing. Their recommendation is to risk no more than 2% of your account, at most 5% depending on your account size, larger accounts 1%. And the idea is to never risk more than a controlled amount on any trade. So before you get into that trade, you already know what's at risk, and it's a constant, right? Never risk more than 2%. And that's how you control your losses. That's how you cut your losses short. And what Trade Manager does is it does it on the fly for you. So let's say you have, I don't know, a $10,000 account, and the distance from your entry point to your stop loss is the equivalent of $100. Okay? Well, depending on whatever contract you're trading, you may be able to get more than one contract on that trade, all for still risking $100. Most of us, in fact, let me ask in the room, does anyone in the room do position sizing? Yes or no? Yeah, mostly it's no. It's just not a concept that's advertised a lot, and I don't know why, because it's so powerful. So most traders trade what? What's their position sizing strategy? I'm going to trade one contract till I build up my account, then I'm going to afford two, and then I'm going to be able to afford three, right? That is not position sizing. And the trick here is that people who position size, who have multiple contracts in play but always the same risk, they blow away the one contract trader when the runners kick in. Because let's say that still for just $100 risk, you can be in the market with three contracts. Now you're talking about a 3-to-1 win ratio when the thing runs. So somebody that normally would make $100 on the move, on that same move, you just made $300. So it's a critical piece. If you want to know more about it, Eric did a phenomenal seminar on it. Stephanie or me or Ray can send you the link to it. It's not something that you just casually wrap your head around. It took me about a year because I'm kind of math challenged. But once I got it, I realized I don't know how I ever day traded without it. It is truly the secret. Here, let me advance. Okay. So, yeah. So before we go to the live charts, I alluded to this earlier. Why have we been around for 5 years now? And it's because we're a real company, right? We've got about 10 people working for us now. It's not like we're Tony Ponytail who's slinging some code out of his garage and threw up a website and now he's got a company. Those are the people that we actually represent. But when you do business with Indicator Warehouse, you're dealing with a real software company. So that means real support, intelligent, seasoned, educated people available. We are very old school in the way we do business, and by that I mean we don't hide behind a web form, we don't hide behind an email address. You are welcome to call us, email us. As I said, we're very transparent. The other thing is that what comes with any system, whether you buy one bird, two, three, doesn't matter. You have access to any of the training rooms, whether that be Forex, stocks, or futures. You can jump from any of them. It doesn't matter to us. Our feeling is if you're going to invest in DTS, you have a right to learn how to use it. And so we kind of flipped the model on its head. I know there are a lot of trade rooms out there that, that's their business model, right, is to get you in the room and keep you in the room. We didn't want to do that because I personally see that as a conflict of interest. If my bread and butter is coming from you being in a trade room, I'm going to do and say things, whether I'm conscious of it or not, to keep you in that room. And that's not what we're about. There's nothing I enjoy more than hearing that people have moved on from the training rooms, right? they really are more training than trading. I mean, obviously we do live trading in there to demonstrate how things work, but the idea is for you to learn how to use these tools so that you can go out on your own, right? And you're not dependent on a room for the rest of your trading career. In addition to that, we've got a vast library of self-paced video training for those of you that either don't want to be in the room or want to enhance your time in the room. And we also do lifetime technical support and via email, and also it's available for in-person for an additional fee. And at the moment, we're still doing new versions, upgrades for free. And that's going to continue until it's proven otherwise. And so if it looks like something like NinjaTrader comes out with a version 8 and we have to rewrite everything, well, then we're going to have to reevaluate that policy. But anyone who purchases now will be grandfathered in, so it won't be an issue. Any questions on that so far? Besides Ninja, do you have any plans for DTS to work on any other platforms like TradeStation or Sierra charts? Not at the moment, Joseph. Right now, Ninja's where we're at. The software works beautifully on there. We've looked at other platforms, but it's not as simple to port things over to other platforms as one would think. It's really a reinterpretation of the software, and we know this works, so it's kind of the old "if it ain't broke, don't fix it." So it's Ninja all the way. All right, so before we jump in, I want to recap, and then Stephanie can show you some charts. So we talked about what I call the DTS platform, or the core system. The core is DTS, so those mean Renko bars, the logic counter, and trade manager. And then it's a matter of what market condition do you want to trade, 1, 2, or 3 of the conditions. And so you have the ability to get that core system with 1 of the alert add-ons, 2 of them, or 3. Just depends what your objectives are. Now the way that looks is these are the popular packages that we tend to sell, right? So you've got the platform. A lot of people buy the Eagle and the Hawk together. As Stephanie alluded to earlier, the Hawk's a great way of giving you some direction for your scalping. The Eagle and Falcon's very popular for people that really are just looking to get the majority of the market conditions out of the way, right? We talked about that earlier, 70% plus 20%. And again, if you want to trade every market condition from high volatility to range bound to trend, that's what is called the Master Traders package or Master Trading package. Let me see if we have any questions. Someone asked if there's any plans for an auto trade system. The answer is, are there any plans? Yes. Is it happening anytime soon? No. That is much easier said than done. I mean, if you can, just looking at this, right, this is not your typical moving average cross system. There's a lot of intelligence and programming that went into this. So, it's not that simple to do for an auto trade system. But if anyone can do it, we can, and I can tell you right now it is in the works. Okay, Steph, I don't know what time it is. Do we have time for charts? Let's see. Yeah. So can you bring up some of today's action and show how this actually plays out in reality?
Yep, I sure can. Can you? Sure. Do you want to make me a presenter?
I think you are
I'll
still.
request that.
I think you are.
I'm not presenter.
Give it a shot.
Oh, okay.
Oh wait, you know what? You're right. You're right. All right, hang on here. Let's see what happens.
Show my screen. Okay.
Cool.
Okay, can everyone see my screen?
If you all need to expand it, just click on the, what is it, maximize? No, not that one. Not you, Stephanie.
Yep, okay.
There.
I'm going to hide my trade manager on 2 of my charts. I will tell you that I have, for this presentation on GoToWebinar, I have to put everything on one monitor, but typically I have 3 or 4 monitors with the chart spread out. So it's a little easier. I'm sure a lot of you have multiple monitors that way. Okay, so if you, Adam, can everyone see my screen then? I'm good to go?
Yep.
Okay. All right, what I'm going to show you is a beautiful way when you grab a trending market, how they all work together. This is my favorite way to trade DTS. So what we have in, and I also am going to go over a little bit more detail, if that's okay, Adam, if I have a few minutes
Please.
to go over Trade Manager. Okay.
Please.
All right, so first of all, I've got the crude oil December contract on the Eagle Trend Trader on our charts. And it is beautiful, simple, and clean, easy to read. And it was a really great trending day today for crude oil. So this is going to be, one of our picture-perfect demonstrations. And I will show you another instrument that did not trend as well, so we won't just show you the beautiful ones. On the Trade Manager, we have several different ways of trailing stop methods. We have an ATR, percentage, trail by a percentage, trail by a moving average, trail by a swing or pivot in the market, parabolic SAR, bar high, bar low. A lot of different options for you, and we go over these in the training and in the manual and in the video training, so you get a feel for which ones to use on what kind of market condition. My favorite to use on a strong trend, especially something like crude oil, is the chandelier. And as you can see, we've been in a trending, started to switch over to a trending market yesterday afternoon. Our overnight action was totally green. We had a little blip of red, came below the hard edge of the band, but did not fire off a signal to get sure. I mean, it did, but you wouldn't have taken it because bars were green. Okay, so kept you out of that mistake. And on top of that, the Trade Manager chandelier trailing stop dots are a great added filter because you can't manage a short trade when the dots are below you. So for me, if the chandelier dots are below, that just gives me added confirmation to all the long signals that the Eagle Trend Trader is giving here. So we had a really nice, it's hard for me to see the time exactly without my crosshair, but I know the crosshair doesn't point it out very well to you all. So this was just after the open of crude oil, it looks like. We had a really nice setup to get long. Now, if you were a true trend trader and you are following and managing your trade with a Trade Manager, you could have stayed in this trade until the very end of the crude oil market and caught the high of the day. I mean, that was a beautiful, beautiful run. And what happens with Trade Manager, and I will bring this over to the right side of the chart real quick. You're going to set prices when you're getting ready for your entry. You set it exactly where you want your entry to be. Then you're going to set stop placement, and I'm going to use the chandelier dots as my stop placement. Trade Manager is going to tell you exactly how many contracts to trade, and it may be a little faint on your end. In my case, with my account size, it is allowing me to take 3 contracts. I've got mine preset for, well, I normally on the Eagle have it for 20 and 40 ticks. I did not change it in time. This is preset for 10 and 20 ticks, but you can change once it's on the chart. Actually, let me just start over. On the Eagle, you are absolutely looking for bigger moves. So I typically look for 20 and 40 ticks on crude. Again, we're going to set prices. Your entry is that little hash mark. Your stop is the blue dots. Okay, now I've got 3 contracts, target 1, target 2, and my third one is always going to be a runner. What I'm looking for is to catch that trend of the day. And the blue dots will pick up my stop and carry it all the way up until it's hit or I close the trade. And typically I would definitely close the trade either at lunchtime or when crude closes at 2:30. So definitely getting close to the close, I don't think I would have let it come back all the way to those blue dots. We would have tightened those dots up by then. but you can literally walk away, not that we recommend that, and your trade manager will trail your stop all the way up with these dots. You do not have to sit here and man that. It's totally automated. Okay. That was risking, actually, and I don't normally risk 5%. It's normally a 3% model. And presetting my targets, 20 and 40. Now you can also physically set them where you want your targets, but I like to get them on the chart and then adjust them if I want to after they're in place. I think that's pretty much, I cover all the trade manager nuances. It's a very, very powerful tool, but yet we've tried to keep it as simple as possible so that it's easy to use. Okay, the beautiful trend in crude, if you caught that, you are good for the day. If you are looking to just scalp the market and you can see that crude is in an uptrend, my preference is to only take the long signals on the scalping market. Let me just show this trade manager. Okay. But if you are a true scalper and you want to scalp both directions, that's totally up to you. When you do it in the same direction as the overall trend, you will have bigger moves, even though you're entering on a scalping technique. You will benefit from a, if you have a runner, you will benefit from the bigger moves if you're with the trend. So for this demonstration, I'd like to just show you a couple of the trend signals that happen, scalping signals that happen with the trend first thing this morning. And there is a little bit of, there's a little bit more to the hawk scalper. This gives you a lot of signals, probably a little more than I like, but we wanted to give people that like to scalp what they asked for. So we actually will teach you in the training rooms how to filter out some of these signals. This would have been a beautiful signal to take, this one. And again, you're only looking for 4 to 6 ticks on a scalp, but if you happen to catch a runner, watch how these blue dots follow this move all the way up to here. So you started here at 93.96, and on a scalping entry, we're able to capture, wow, quite a bit. 70-some ticks in a runner. Oh, I'm so sorry. I thought that was 93.36. 93.96 to 94.15. Okay, so about 20 ticks on a runner if you let the blue dots stop you out. If you only want to scalp, you want to get in and get out, all in, all out for 4 to 5 ticks. There's one entry, there's another, here's another, here's another. 4 scalps right in a row during that nice trend move up.
So you'll see, I mean, look, scalping's not easy. I know that, unfortunately, there's a lot of people out there that try and make it sound like it's easy, and it's not. And so that's why we added some extra functionality. The fact that you see the yellow bars is more warning that, you know, this is an unknown market direction, so be careful. The fact that macro line can turn gray, again, flatness, be careful. So,
and this is a hard market to explain those because it was trending so well today. So there's some beautiful prime examples of just go long every chance you get. But I will show you a market that does show you how those tools will come in.
But the beauty of this is you wouldn't have known that it was such a strong trend if you didn't have the eagle that was defining the flight path. That's where the diversification comes in. I mean, it's just, otherwise you'd just be kind of hoping for the best. And so, yeah, it's a great scalping system. Here's what I always say. The Hawk Microscalper is a great scalping system. If you want to be a better scalper, then you need something like the Eagle and or the Falcon.
Absolutely. When you're taking trades in the same direction on all 3 charts, you are in control. Okay, so we have the Falcon Swing Trader. Let's just show you that. Again, because I have the benefit of having all 3 systems, and knowing that the crude oil was in a strong trend, even from first thing this morning, all systems were green, then I am only looking personally to take the long signals on the Hawk or the Falcon. And remember, even though I had a position long on the Eagle and it was trailing the whole way up all day, I can still go in and out of the market on the Falcon and the Hawk as well and capture little pieces of the market and bank profit, which is another ideal way to be able to be more active in your trading while your trend trader is managing itself. So here's a beautiful entry on the Falcon. Again, example is a green swing line. That means long only. Green filter, long only. Get ready with the green dot. Hopefully you can see that. I don't know if it's large enough. Let's see. Get set with the green triangle. The logic counter is going to tell you exactly where that bar will close, and your entry is 1 tick above at the hash mark. Okay, so there's a beautiful entry on the Falcon for a swing trade, and that is an easy 10 ticks, and that's all you're looking for is approximately 10 to 20 ticks on a Falcon swing trade. Here's another entry. Looking for another. Now here is an entry, but it's a little aggressive. There's 2 reasons. The swing line had turned red, so it's not your picture-perfect textbook setup. So I'm going to pass that one for now, but it was an entry you would have just had to adjust your trailing stop dots or enter above them. Here's another entry that gave us a little heat, didn't give us the full 10 ticks right away, but never stopped you out either. And stops are going to be down here at the blue dots. And final entry, if you take an entry that close to 2 o'clock, which I don't recommend, but there's a final entry here that pays at least 10 ticks. Okay, so there's the Falcon swing trade. All winners on the crude oil market today, and using the 3 systems the way I like to use them in conjunction, trading in one direction, the direction that the Eagle is proving to be a strong trend. Now I will show you a market that did not trend as well or did not have as long of a life, and that was probably the indices today. The had a pretty strong drop down this morning, the NQ. But it was short-lived, and then it was chop-chop all afternoon. So I'm going to show you how the Eagle could have prevented you from trying to think that your market, let me show you what I was looking at.
You can also close the trade manager.
Okay, hold on 1 second. Give me 1 second here. It was actually, okay. Here we had the NQ opened with a gap up. I believe the ES and the YM did as well. And we had a long signal right out of the gate. I'm going into a little bit more teaching mode, and I probably shouldn't, but I want to just kind of show that, yes, it's not always so beautiful as crude oil, and it's not as picture-perfect clear. But I just want to show one thing here. If you were one of the traders this morning that got excited about the gap up and got long, you did not get very much. It double topped at the overnight high, and you're maybe lucky to get out if you got out then. Using the Eagle Trend Trader with the Trade Manager filter, there were 2 things that I saw. I definitely saw the Trade Manager momentum being broke. Our dots are in the wrong position for a long, so I'm not interested in this. And we had some lower lows, but these are kind of things that we go over. This is a little messy. These are things that we go over in the training room. When we made a double top up here this morning and we got a red dot on a long chart, That's heads up, we might be getting a short signal. Now that's a really advanced warning, but at least it's telling us not to hold our breath for a long. And that was really pretty clear this morning. As soon as this red bar printed and our trailing stop dots from Trade Manager flipped to the back side of us, we were then looking for a short setup for real. Now, there's some nuances on how to do this when the band hasn't quite flipped yet. Do we really want to wait till way over here? If you are a more advanced trader, there is no reason why you couldn't take that trade. But it is not, again, it's not a picture-perfect setup, but it is really all that the NQ offered today. If you get into that, that was the move down, and then we got into a reversal time. The problem with taking this trade is too close to lunch, but it didn't actually, did it kick in? It actually did kick in, but this is not a trade that we would recommend that close to the New York lunch hour. And then after that, the trailing stop dots and higher highs kept you out of this sideways action. That's all that the indices did this afternoon. So what that tells me is either if you are going to trade, if you have to trade, if you're an active trader, then you just want to scalp. You don't want to try to trend trade this chart in the afternoon after the lunch hour, because it is not clearly in a short position. We're making higher highs. We have our trailing stop dots on the wrong side of us, and we were getting green bars in a short trend. So these are some of the things that you'll learn on how to know when to trend trade and when not to trend trade. So if you use the trend trader as not only a bigger picture for scalping or swing trading, you can also know exactly when, again, not to try to look for the bigger moves and only take the scalps in that biased direction. So this afternoon after lunch, if you had to trade, let's just take a look at what some of the short scalps, if any, lined up. Again, remember Adam mentioned the yellow bars. This is a major sign of chop. Notice that the crude scalper had very little yellow bars, and the NQ has a ton of them. Whenever you see that many yellow bars, that's consolidation sideways. So again, it's best to stay out of the market when you're having that, or be very quick to get in and to get out.
Can you all tell that Stephanie does private coaching?
I'm sorry, am I going too far?
No, it's awesome. Hey,
okay.
It's great. It's good to have you back.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I mean, even scalping this market, really this chart is telling you to back off, sit on your hands. Even scalping this afternoon would have been very difficult to do. Red, yellow, green, yellow, red. It wasn't until the end of the day that you got solid red on one move down, and you might have been able to catch that last move. But yeah, too much yellow, and Eric goes over that in the DTS training room on when the colors are changing like that, red, green, red, red, yellow, green, yellow, red, definitely consolidation and sideways, and stay out. So you either look to trade another market, like we were looking at crude oil, and gold is also another great trending market, or you just stay out of the market that day. But if you caught this trade early this morning at about 10:30, the NQ paid off very nicely on a Eagle trend trade. Let's just see if we would have made our targets, set prices. We would have made target 1 and target 2. And the runner wouldn't have made much at all, but a little bit. Quiet day for the NQ. Okay, that's...
I hate to cut you off, Stephanie, but
yes, I'm done.
we're running over and, got to...
Okay.
Got to honor people's time. All right, so hopefully y'all seen the chat box. I put a comment in there that if you do have any questions after this presentation, to please contact Stephanie. Her email address is stephanie@indicatorwarehouse.com, or you're welcome to call our main line. You can get to her through option number 1, and that's also on the telephone number is also there in the chat box. Let me just make sure. Any final questions? Denton, your question on specifically on the Falcon, just send it to Stephanie@indicatorwarehouse.com, and she'll address it. Excuse me. That's more of an offline question. Okay. Any final data points anybody want to cover before we go? Hopefully you got value out of this today. I know it's a lot to try and squeeze into 60 minutes. Clearly, there's a lot of research and work that's gone into the diversified trading system. And so, yeah, trying to squeeze it into 60 minutes is not always the easiest thing to do. But hopefully we got close to the mark. Okay. What are the percentages of winners, Paul? Let me put it this way. The reason you hear me hesitating is because because we're real. And so answering that question the way most people answer it, if I was like most of the vendors out there, I'd say something like 82% or 91, just to come up with a whatever. Here's what we have found, right? And this is just the reality of trading. These are tools. Okay, these are not mystical, magical ATM machines that print money for you overnight. And so, like any tool, it takes time to learn to use them, and that's why we give you trading rooms and training rooms after your investment, so that you can actually learn how to use these. So, if you have the right aptitude, the right psychological setup, if you will, and the right tools, you'll be successful. And so it's been our experience that if you want to be very conservative and you, which I recommend, by the way, and you wait till everything's green, right, just to make it as simple as possible, these signals are about 90% accurate. But as Stephanie alluded to, there's plenty of opportunities to trade, and those are more advanced concepts where you don't have to have everything green, right? It's just like everything else in day trading. There's always a trade-off between accuracy and number of trades. And so we try and teach you and help you find the balance that works for you. Obviously, if you're trading all market conditions, you're going to have more success. It's as simple as that. If you don't mind waiting for a specific market condition, well then that's fine too. Just takes a little bit more discipline. We make both available to you. Do we plan to update for DTS? Nope. It's interesting. This has been the way it is now for about 2 years, and I always ask, the experts and the trade moderators, I'm like, do we need to change anything? And the answer is always no. It's fine. It works. And so again, I go back to the ain't broke, don't fix it. We don't have to constantly be tweaking something if it works correctly. Now, here's what we have found. We have found that there are some indicators, products, etc., that some people like to add to the DTS system if they're into a certain component of day trading. For example, we have a support and resistance suite that works very nicely with DTS. Do you have to have it in order to be successful with DTS? Absolutely not. Some people don't even believe in support and resistance. But if you do, and you're a support and resistance trader, we've got a great add-on. There's a few products on our website. When you go there, it's under the System Boosters section. And the idea with those products is that, yes, they're like aftermarket when you buy a car, right, if you want to soup up the engine or whatever. These are things you can add to the DTS system if you so desire, or really any system, but they are not required for success. What you've seen covered here today is enough to be extremely successful at day trading. Okay, that's it. I hope you all got value out of this. It's always a pleasure to present, and it's great to have Stephanie back. And as I said, if you have any questions, then feel free to shoot them over to Stephanie at indicatorwarehouse.com, and we'll catch you on the flip side. Thanks, folks.
And Adam, one last thing, if you
Sure.
don't mind. Okay, just letting everyone know, if I don't get right back to you, it is, I do need to take a little break, and I will be checking back in on emails and phone calls this evening in about an hour.
Great. Thanks, folks.